Hello, ladies and gentlebirds. Hopefully, some of you are able to have some coherent conversations today without boiling into tears. Unfortunately, I am not one of those people. I still cannot get over the mess that was Monday night. Tomby's the intro hits different now. I'm sorry. That was rough. That was rough. And I think, look, we're all guilty of it. We all kind of talked ourselves into this Eagles team being different than what we thought. It's a lie that maybe they are better and they will get it right. And there's reason to back this team to find themselves. And ultimately, you take the rose-tinted glasses off, you take off the midnight green glasses, and all you get is your land's on fire. You know, there was nothing there. It's like you kind of delude yourself into buying the same old shtick week after week after week. And then eventually, when push comes to shove, there was no bite to back it up. All the Eagles did was bark all season long about how they'll get it right, they'll sort it out, it starts at the top, they're playing not to the standard that they know. Playoffs come around, you think, right, they're going to play for guys like Kelsey, they're going to play for Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, Lane Johnson even potentially at this point, veterans that may not be on the team in the next 2-3 years, let alone this offseason, and they still can't get it right. And the finger pointing has been unbelievable. So what I have done, and the prospect of this show, is I have made a graphic for every person I feel is somewhat responsible for the downfall of the Eagles. And now 1, 2, 3, we got five people that should be like circled in red. If you're Jeffrey Lurie, you're circling those people in red and you're saying that's an issue and it's got to change. One I've teased on Twitter throughout the course of the last 2 days. Or it's at least a conversation that we need to have. And I don't really know where that even starts because even that has so many layers. But I think the only place to start before we get to the juicy stuff is just, excuse my French, all right? Look, this is a PG show, all right? I know we've got 10 of you on Twitter, 11 on YouTube. We've got one flying the flag on Facebook. Just, what a fucking embarrassment. Like, there's no other, I'm sorry, there is no other word for it. That was absolutely pathetic. From the first whistle, from the very first play, like, there was hope to start with, and I think it genuinely struggled as soon as Baker Mayfield walks onto the field, and just like the very first play was what, like a missed 20-yard gainish to Mike Evans, wasn't it, or something like that. And you just knew there was an element there of, oh no, like the Bucs are coming. They've seen the Eagles get punched once. We've said it for weeks. The Eagles get punched one time and they're on the floor, rolling, crying, cowering, not sure what to do. There's no fight. There's no bark in them. It's just empty words, empty cans. And the emptiest cans make the most noise when you kick them, which is what we've seen from Darius Slay as of late. But the Bucs just went for the jugular straight away. Just deep pass, deep pass, deep pass. And the difference is between them and the Eagles is their routes have some kind of nuance, and the Eagles' defense is obviously horrific at stopping them. So that started happening. The Eagles' defense got rocked. The offense was carried by one man and one man only, and his name is Devontae Smith. Like, if you were going to criticize the whole team, that's fine, but we leave Devontae Smith's name out of those conversations because that man, for 60 minutes, was arguably the only person not named maybe Milton Williams, maybe a couple of the defensive line players who again and again came up with big stops in crucial situations to give the Eagles a hope, to give them a lifeline. And even that got shoved away. Like, the offense just couldn't do anything. There was nothing that team could do when all was said and done. And it's just, there is nothing else to say. Like, that's the thing. What more can you say about that game that we haven't said for every other game that they've lost in this 7-week span? What's different about this game than the Giants or the Seahawks or the Niners or the Cardinals? Like what is different? It was the exact same bollocks, the same bad play calling, Jalen Hurts looking like that on the sideline, the body language was terrible all round. There was no, the tackling was horrific, the effort was dismal. Like, and we've seen this. We know that this is the Eagles team. And I was in a meeting earlier today, and I won't mention, he might be watching this, I'm not sure. But he works in the editorial department of the company that own PSN. And he was telling me that he went to the Eagles-Giants game like last week, came away from it, and he bet every single line of Tampa Bay to win up to minus 19.5, which was around 50 to 1. And he said he came out, he said it's the best day of betting he's ever had. and it somewhat dented the blow of the Eagles losing. And I've got to say, do you know what? Fair enough. Like, he's seen the forest for the trees there. It's better than most of us could have done. It's just shambolic across the board. Like, there's nothing really we can say. We'll get to some of your comments, and then we'll get into some of the big discussions, because there are a lot. Obviously, we've got veterans retiring. I know Jack in Hagar says, do I think Kelce stays another year? I don't know. I don't know. I think that two things tell me he won't. Actually, four things. We'll go with four, all right, while we're thinking them on the spot. Number one, the man deals with plantar fasciitis, okay, which for those who don't know is a, what's the word? Not derogatory, not debilitating. Something that gets worse over time. I've forgotten the word, regression or whatever. It's a disease, like my mum has it. And at times she can barely even walk. Like, she gets up and she struggles to walk to the car, or she struggles to drive. So knowing you've got a center that is 35 years old, playing like one of the best players in the NFL year after year, and moving like debilitating. It might be debilitating either way. But he's moving like 300-pound men on the heels of his feet, like pushing that weight upwards. Like, you've got to be degenerative. Ron wins the prize. Do you know what I mean? So to have that kind of degenerative issue and still be playing football at that level is remarkable. So that tells me number one. Number two, linked with that, is that last off-season, I'm sure many of you remember at the birth of the New Heights podcast, he was asked about retirement. And there was a clip in there, one of the early episodes, where he was nearly crying, saying that his body isn't what it was, that he wants to, but his body's like giving up, that it's just not the same, and it's very hard. So that is on the back of my mind. You link those two together. Number three is the fact that he does now have a life outside of this. He's got a young family that he's going to want to be there for and be healthy for. He doesn't want to, if his body is getting worn down and broken and battered and bruised, he doesn't want to be 16, 17 weeks of the year going through hell physically to a point where he can't even be able to walk these kids to school and stuff like that, you know? So that's going to be a factor. He's got a family to look after. And the final one is he's got a very successful life outside of football now. Like, the New Heights podcast has been a fantastic hit, like, worldwide. It's a nationally respected podcast, one of the top downloaded in the sports category on a weekly basis. He's a very marketable man. He's consistently now in the media. There's a career there for him. He doesn't need the rigors of football when he's been paid the money he has. He's had the career he's had. There's nothing really left to accomplish. He's joint with the most all-pro honors of all time of any Eagle ever. There isn't much left. And this was that last span. Like, if the Eagles had won a Super Bowl and go out on a high, it's no brainer. I don't think he retires anyway. The only thing I think that would drag him back is that there's unfinished business. And the fact that this team fell so drastically short of expectations, and expectations that they should have got back to the Super Bowl at a minimum. To start 10 wins and go out the way they did, it's going to leave a nasty taste in the mouth of a man that is very much like Philadelphia through and through. Like, although he's from Cincy, he embodies everything that it means to be an Eagle, to play for Philadelphia, to be a part of that city. So I think that might bring him back. But if we're being honest with ourselves, he's getting older. Like we say, he's 35 odd years old now, has a degenerative condition, plantar fasciitis. And for the past 2 years, it's been near tears on podcasts saying his body's not quite up to scratch anymore, that it hurts a bit more, that he's struggling. He ends up leaving, like crying visibly nearly on the sideline towards the end of the game against Tampa. So, yeah, I don't think he comes back. If I could genuinely see him going to Kansas City for a year, just for 1 year to play with his brother, I think that would be an amazing opportunity for them both. It's something he's never done. Obviously, he's played against his brother. He's done it in a Super Bowl. He's never played with him. And the Eagles aren't trading for Travis Kelce. So I wouldn't be mad. I think a lot of Eagles fans would be happy, and it's kind of a blissful goodbye, isn't it? Like, as heartbreaking as it is, you're kind of happy to see him move on. So that's where I'm at with Jason Kelce. I don't think he comes back. Fletch seems to be one of two camps at the minute. Jordan Davis felt like he'd just broken up with his girlfriend, if you looked at his presser earlier today. And then Fletch himself was very bitey about Nick Sirianni comments, backing the head coach, saying that he's not going to get fired, that he doesn't want to buy into that conversation. So I don't know. I mean, Fletch is a 50-50. Like, if we're being honest, he probably was one of the better defensive tackles that the Eagles had this year, even in that rotational role. So I would like to see Fletch back. The Shabby Attic says, I blame the younger players' entitled and bad attitudes. Maybe we want to turn in my Philly card with how embarrassing that was on national TV. I respect the fire. That's some venom coming out on this Wednesday evening. I don't know how far I'd say younger. I think the older ones would be. I'll be in the same camp with you, but for me, it would be the older ones. The guys like Slay, like the veterans and the captains on the team that haven't really been that this. That would be where, like, I think younger players have a lot to learn and they go through that. As much as the bad attitudes might be there, that can be taught and you kind of grow through that. Like, you know, you look at someone like AJ Brown, for instance, got heckled with bad attitude comments all year long, and then ends up being one of the most prolific leaders on the team. So, like, I'm not mad at that. I'm mad at the lack of effort, though. Like, the complete lack of effort. Any kind of... It was really weird. Like, the first defensive drive, you just knew, like, this is going to suck. Like, this is going to be a night-long struggle watching this team try to stop anything. Like, bear in mind, they faced Rashad White, okay? Let's do a little quick bit of maths for you, gents, all right? And ladies and gentle birds. I can't even spell Rashad White, but I'm just going to quickly search it. So Rashad White on the season, okay, when they first played was absolutely horrific. Do you know how many yards per carry he averaged on the season? 3.6 yards per carry. Do you know how much he had against the Eagles? Anyone want to know how many yards he had? Again, off the top of your head, a guy that averaged 3.6 yards per carry against the Philadelphia Eagles came away with 72 yards on 18 carries, which, if we divide that, what's 72 divided by 18? 4 yards per carry. Not great. It's not great. Like, they got absolutely... Like, this is a running back that did nothing. He's been bad all year. The Tampa Bay offensive line couldn't run a target. There is nothing they can run at the minute. And somehow Rashad White looks like prime Adrian Peterson back there. Disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful. Cheerio Liam in the chat 12. Is Nick fired yet? He's not, but I think this is a good time to pivot to our main conversation. Just a quick shout, guys. If you haven't already liked the stream, it will be amazing if you could do so. If you're on Twitter, if you could repost it, that would be amazing. If you're on YouTube and you could like it, again, best way to help the stream. I'm embarrassed to say we actually got more likes than the Eagles scored points last time out, which was our aim. Just a shame when it happened, isn't it? So I'd love to see us get to 20 likes today, guys. Let's pump those rookie numbers up and prove that we are better at clicking than the Eagles are at literally anything football related. That would be outstanding. So let's get into it. All right, we've got, you know, several candidates here that are viable for why the Eagles have collapsed to some degree. Now, some of it's like, you know, part and parcel. Some of it is 50-50. Like, there's no devout one person. And we have to make that much clear. There's not one person responsible for the downfall of this team. But what I will say is that there is a trend. Okay, you can go back to Chip Kelly. Coach comes in. There is a burst of production. The Eagles look world beaters. They look like the best team in the league for 8, 9, 10, 11 weeks. Something happens, goes tits up, spirals out of control. New head coach doesn't know any better. Build the roster, look great for 8 weeks, goes tits up, spirals out of control. New head coach doesn't know any better because he's young and inexperienced. Says yes to everything, goes tits up, spirals out of control. It's the same pattern. The Eagles have every window the Eagles try and build for is like 3 years. They have 3 years of a coach before it goes absolutely off the rails. And that's where I'm at. It's like, look, okay, let's start with Howie Roseman. All right? Suspect number 1, Howie Roseman. All right. It's not the most intense graphic in the world. I don't know what he's smiling about, the little snake either, but here we are. Look, Howie Roseman is one of the best general managers in football. Okay, he is. He's one of the best general managers in football. His ability to build a team is second to none. His ability to find value where others daren't look is incredible. However, I said this on Twitter earlier. Can you name me one time, 1 year between 2015 and now where the Eagles have had the perfect balance of coach and scheme and roster building? They either have an amazing roster with a clear direction and a coach that can't utilize it, or a coach with an amazing scheme and players that don't fit. All right. Jim Schwartz, fantastic scheme. They kept drafting corners that were built for the wrong type of scheme. Too tall, too rangy, couldn't tackle, not quick enough. All right. This defense, the Fangio scheme is as good as its secondary. Slay and Bradbury both took a step back. You can't help it. One of them. Safety, there was no investment. And if there is going to be pressure coming over the middle because the linebackers are bad, they're going to get exploited more. Defense was a write-off. The scheme was absolutely not a fit for that team. Offense, you can look, and this is what pisses me off, because I said this on Twitter earlier, right? And people were saying, oh, this team this year, 2017, 2021, fine, okay. Have 2017 and tell me it wasn't lucky as fuck. Like, it doesn't matter. 2017 it isn't valid in these conversations, because that was, again, an elite roster where it could have been coached to greatness, and they caught fire at the right time. They had magic in a bottle. It will never happen again to any team in this league. That was unbelievable, all right? But this year, you can say the team was built for Sirianni. No, it wasn't. It was the team that was built. It's a ridiculous team. On offense, is the, in my opinion, a top 3 offense in the NFL. If we're being 100% honest, from a talent level alone, from top to bottom, to grade every position, outside of what, Miami, maybe Baltimore, maybe Buffalo, San Fran to a point, but they haven't got the quarterback. There's nothing there. There's nothing there. It really is weird. Like, there has never been a balance of the roster isn't built for the coach and the coach isn't built for the roster. It doesn't matter what coach you look at, okay? And it blows my mind that we sit here and say Belichick can't come to Philadelphia because he'd want roster control and Jeffrey Lurie wouldn't give that up. Well, is that not a Jeffrey Lurie problem? I'm noticing a pattern here. Okay, it's funny that surely there should be some element of it. A coach should be able to go to his GM and say, look, this is the scheme I want to run. To make this successful, I need a receiver that can do this. If I'm going to run 50 screens a week, I need a blocking receiver. I need a guy built like Alshon Jeffrey was or like AJ Brown is. Okay, if I'm going to run these vertical routes, we need speed and nothing but speed. And we need a quarterback that can get it down the field, an offensive line that can buy him time, and a tight end that will distract over the middle. If we're talking running backs, that's been neglected forever. But there hasn't been an example of a team that has been built explicitly around the coach. In all reality, for the good teams in this league, it's a balance. Okay, it's a balance. That in all seriousness, the Eagles should be able to say, look, Nick Sirianni wants to run a West Coast offense. To execute that, you need a receiver that does this, a tight end that does that, and a running back that does this. I think we should get running backs that maybe zig instead of zag, and receivers that are built a bit more bigger so they can be good in the red zone, but we'll meet you halfway. These are our targets. What do you think? That cohesion just doesn't appear. For a coach like Nick Sirianni to sit there at the start of the season and when he first came in to say, yeah, he wants to build his offense around players. Was that not his entire selling point in that first press conference? Was that the Eagles were in such a mess he could mold his scheme around the strength of his players? Bullshit, is he? Bullshit. And you can't say he hasn't. What about that offense elevates the players? And you can't say it's DeAndre Swift's 1K season or AJ Brown or Smitty, because those 3 players would be good if you stuck them in a swamp. They will be good regardless. But the scheme doesn't elevate them. Jalen Hurts, the fact that Jalen Hurts in that playoff game rolls outside waiting for a time and the receivers just stand still. They stop their routes now. They're not even trying. A play breaks down. Hurts is scrambling. And the receivers just go. Phone was ringing, Quez. Phone was ringing. All right. So Howie Roseman is absolutely partly responsible. I genuinely think. Like, I don't know the way that you draw it up. Is it solely Howie Roseman? Is it the coaching staff? Or does it start with ownership wanting things a certain way? Because it's not the first time we've heard it. But I think there is 100% a link between the Eagles getting a head coach for 3 years, looking great in the first couple, it all going tits up, and then it's spiraling and they start again. And I think it's because the coach gets an ego or the coach gets confidence that, hey, the way I'm doing things, the way I'm coaching this team works. Get me players that fit this. And Howie Roseman's there going, the way I'm building this team, the way I draft players works. Run the offense like this. And there's friction. And Nick wants to zig and Howie wants to zag. And it is not the first time. We saw it with Doug Peterson. He wanted his coordinators in the building. He wanted Press Taylor. He wanted to do things his way. It didn't work out because coaches get better and they stand on their laurels as any head coach should. That they have belief in their system. The issue is that it conflicts with the front office. And so I don't know who's responsible for that, but it's a trend that has to be picked up on, I think, by now. And before we get to the next one, I was going to shout out to IRL Sim Racing. Used to be a sim racer myself, used to be a motorsport commentator. Love that. I'm not sure what sim racing you do or if it's iRacing or whatever, but I love that. I'll always support sim racing. Love to see that on the channel. Bring back the... Always saying is, iRacing Indy 500 winner. Yes, it was the bottom split, but we won it. All right? It's all that matters. We'll get to the second one. Chip made the trades. I mean, exactly. But I think that's also scared him off. I think the Eagles have been so scared after Chip Kelly that the last running back they paid any substantial money to was DeMarco Murray. The last time a GM had the last time a coach had any kind of roster control was Chip Kelly. Like that 2015 season messed up Howie so much, or Lurie so much, that they're so against going back down those paths. For what? For what's the reason? Just because you went down there, 9 years ago and it didn't work out? Because the car you were going in was a bit bumpy, the ride wasn't enjoyable? Doesn't mean the road doesn't get you to the destination. It's the same journey. It's just how you get there that's different. So yeah, I think that's a point. We'll get to the second man, or men in this case. We've got Matt Patricia and Sean Desai. Take your pick. Doesn't really matter. They're both responsible for the same thing. Look, I don't really know where we start with this. I mean, realistically, if someone has to be fired, the Eagles probably are going to look in the direction of coordinators because it's the easiest thing to make. I think Nick Sirianni is too much of a yes man. It'll be on his knees saying thank you for Howie Roseman for breathing on Wednesday morning. That if they come to him and say, look, Nick, we're going to keep you around, but we're firing Sean, we're firing Brian, and we're going to bring in our guys. Nick Sirianni is going to wank on the spot. Absolutely going to wank on the spot. So, realistically, if anyone gets canned, it's going to be the coordinators. Unfortunately, I don't think it's Patricia, because there is this weird pseudo-romance between Patricia and Lurie and the Eagles, and it just feels very, very bizarre. Like it's this. We've heard about it before, about like the Patriot way and stuff, and that the Eagles had wanted Patricia in the building, and they've kind of forced him in, and then they forced him to coordinate. Like none of that was natural. None of that was that. The Eagles had an offensive coordinator, right? They had Brian Johnson, he was fine. Brian. They had Sean Desai, he was fine. It wasn't terrible. His halftime adjustments were brilliant. Sure, the first half sucked most of the time, but it was okay. It was serviceable. And you force Patricia in as an assistant for some reason, and then you force him to defensive coordinator, where he comes in and changes the word of absolutely everything, confuses every player, ruins the vibe on the team, the cohesion on that defense. That any player that would have, liked playing under Sean, got them to 10 wins, is now sat there going, well, who's this guy? Why have I got to work under Patricia? Probably looking at Slay across the room like, is he all right? Do we go to bat for this guy? It's just completely unnecessary. And I think from a defensive standpoint, the defense really messed up that game against the Bucs. As much as the offense didn't show up, the defensive line tried. That there were attempts from the defense. The secondary sucked. The linebackers sucked. So there's a point where, the coordinators should come under fire. Now, the way I would frame the Matt Patricia scenario is, if Jonathan Gannon was coaching this defense, would the result have been any different? If Jonathan Gannon was in control of this defense over the last 7 weeks, how many wins would the Eagles have in comparison to they have now? I don't think it'd make that much. I think a lot of that is a talent issue. So I'm willing to pass on the coordinators. Like, it would not surprise me in the slightest for them to keep Patricia around for a year, to give him a full season, because they'll be, we can't evaluate him. It was only a few weeks. We need a full year to really see what this defense can do. And that'll be it. And Patricia will be in. And that'll be the end of it. So I really think that they are going to stick with Patricia. Desai will be out. He'll catch on with another team and be absolutely fine. It might go down to a positional coach for a bit, but realistically, they're just going to give it to Patricia. I think that is just a sad reality of the situation. But I've already accepted that is the case, that Matt Patricia will be the defensive coordinator next year. I don't know. I'm not looking forward to it. I don't want him to be. I think he is anything but a leader. He has shown he is a fantastic football mind that is ego driven. That isn't. He's not a coach. He's not a coach. He's a play caller and a defensive analyst. I don't see him as a coach. A coach is someone that should get the best out of you. A coach is someone that should lead a team, that should set the tone, that can make those tough decisions. He doesn't. Every decision Patricia makes appears to be ego related. Every time he's in the news, it's something bad. It's a player speaking wrongly about him. It's harkening back to the days in Detroit. Like, there is nothing about Matt Patricia that stands out as a redeeming quality, other than the fact that he's probably putting people in jobs by buying a lot of extra size, clothes. They have to make more of them because there's more of him. So he's probably helping out, people who make jumpers, really. So there's that. But there's nothing about Matt Patricia that inspires me. But for some reason, I really think that the Eagles are going to go in with him. And that sucks. He's not a fantastic defensive mind. He's just a big yes man as Sirianni. He could well be. I think there's at least pedigree to him though. And it's different pedigree than the Fangio scheme, which is something the Eagles absolutely have to get away from. Where this obsession with Vic Fangio started, I do not know. I do not care. But I want that to be left in 2023. Why Howie Roseman had posters of Vic Fangio up all around his office. Vic comes in as an assistant. Oh my God, Vicky Fangio. Oh my God, Vic's here, guys. Vic Fangio. And where's that led them? Where has that led them? They've gone for a young coach in Sean Desai, who's a disciple, if you pardon the pun. And the defense has fallen to shreds because they haven't got the team that can execute the scheme. So there is just this weird love affair with Fangio in the same way that there is with Patricia. And they've just tried to model everything after his schemes. And it has gone horrifically tits up because they don't have the talent to do it. So, that's there. We need Trotter and Patrick Queen. I was all in on Patrick Queen this offseason as well. I was really hoping the Eagles would make a move for him. There was never... The thing is, every year there's a linebacker that the Eagles should target, and it makes too much sense because they have no talent there. And if you look at the list of free agents this year, all right, name me your linebacker starters for 2023. You had Nicholas Morrow, you had Nakobe Dean, you had Shaq Leonard, and you had Zach Cunningham, all right? Nakobe Dean is on IR. Useless. He hasn't done anything for anyone this year. Shaq Leonard, free agent. Zach Cunningham, free agent. Nicholas Morrow, free agent. There is not a single defensive starter as a linebacker being retained. Do you know how terrifying that is? Even if you bring all three back, it's not good enough. That is a bottom 5 position group in the NFL. You get a chance to start a clean slate, but they're all going to be new. They're all going to be new players. That's not good. There is no way you can rebuild an entire position group in an offseason and expect success. So that's a worry. Even if they do go and land Patrick Queen, whether they go and get Trotter Jr., we know he's coming in the draft, probably would be a fantastic combination. Or whether that realistically is going to hang Nakobe Dean out there again and hope that he doesn't tweak his ankle and go out for 8 weeks. Whatever it is, they need to redo the whole position, and that sucks. So, Lurie cleans house outside of Nick and Stout, and everyone comes in brand new. Wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me at all. And as we're talking about coordinators and stuff, we will go to this man. Oh, this one's been a long time coming, isn't it? This one has been a long time coming. Brian Johnson. Brian. Somehow not even the best Brian Johnson in the world. Somehow not even the best Brian on the Eagles. Is there another Brian? Doesn't really matter because there's a better one somewhere. This man, I think, has a lot to answer for. And I don't know what I would do with him. If we're being logical, I think demoting him back to a quarterback coach where he had a strong relationship with Jalen, was his best friend, apparently, obviously knew him since he practically came out the womb. I genuinely feel like Brian Johnson would be better as a quarterback coach because there's no arguing that from year 1 to year 2 to year 3, the development of Jalen Hurts was absolutely astronomical. There was arguably no bigger leap in the NFL than what we saw from Brian Johnson. Than Jalen Hurts. And Brian Johnson orchestrated that. You put him as an offensive coordinator and everything goes massively tits up. And look, the real ones that are here, I know we've got 21 of you watching this on YouTube right now. If you've been watching this show for any extended period of time, I was out on Brian Johnson like 3 weeks into the season. Like there was heavy criticisms from me very, very early on, saying if things don't change, they're gonna get found out. Okay, this was a bad offense, and they got humiliated week after week, and they scraped by. Now we can look at that objectively and say, all right, Brian Johnson's offense was shit. It was useless. He shouldn't be a coordinator at this level. But the caveat is that everyone says, well, it's Sirianni's offense. You don't know very much because actually it's Nick Sirianni's offense. You're Nick Sirianni, the head coach. Okay. Well, funnily enough, then, by that logic, it would have been Nick Sirianni's offense last year when Shane Steichen was coordinator. The man that you hold on a pedestal and worship every night before you go to bed, that was Sirianni's offense too. So who does it fall on then? Which one? Is it Brian Johnson or is it Sirianni? The way I look at it is, look, even if it is Sirianni's offense, or I don't give it, whoever's calling the plays, doesn't bother me. If Nick Sirianni is watching on as Brian Johnson calls this offense get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse as the days go by and not make a change, that's on him. If he's tried to make a change and the front office have said no, that's on them. We don't know the ins and outs of that conversation. So it's Sirianni's offense. Brian runs it terribly. I don't think both are mutually exclusive, right? Both can be true. Brian Johnson was useless as an offensive coordinator. You'd have better luck flipping a coin between run and pass and just choosing one. Okay? It was atrocious. Sirianni should have had the balls, should have had the wherewithal to approach Brian Johnson and say, look, kid, this ain't working out. You're a great coach for Jalen. You're his best mate. But for fuck's sake, can you call anything that isn't a wide receiver screen? Can you call anything that isn't a QB draw on 3rd and 9? Can you call anything that isn't on a 3rd and 4, throw the ball 2 yards? Okay? So it is Sirianni's offense, and there was no accountability from Sirianni to look at how it was being run and make a difference. That's on him. Brian Johnson being awful, he shouldn't have been a coordinator, but he can't fire himself. He can't take himself out of the... I wish he would have made my life a lot easier, but he can't. So in my mind, it's on Sirianni to have made that adjustment, to have recognized that this isn't working out, to stand up and say, look, this just isn't it. Let me do the play calling. Go and sit with Jeff and look at the offensive line or something. Just fucking get out of here, right? Go and talk to Jalen. I'm sure you can talk about childhood memories together. Go on. Talk about Jalen's dad. Go on. He's a great man, isn't he? Go and tell him some stories. Go on. Off you go. Bye-bye. That's what it should have been. But instead, it was just allowed to... It went from teething problems to growing pains to, oh my God, this is terrible. So can we please get him out of the offense? And that ultimately falls on Sirianni. So is Brian Johnson responsible for the collapse of the Eagles? To an extent. He's responsible for his own play calls, which were terrible. But it's Nick Sirianni's job to prevent it from getting any worse. It's the front office's job to prevent it from getting any worse and to make a fire. So to make a move, to bring anyone in, doesn't really matter. Give it to Stout. Stout doesn't want it, but do something. Do something. But you cannot watch that offense on a weekly basis. And it's not even like what the worst thing is, right, as coaches, is that they have to go back and watch the tape. On a Monday morning, they go in, they get their iPads out, they go into their positional rooms, they sit there in their positional groups and they watch their own tape. And Brian stood there going, well, I'll tell you what, great block on that screen. Yeah, we only got 2 yards, but well in, boys. Keep doing that. We'll do that again. Every week, the Eagles watched the same tape, the same plays, and somehow didn't think this needs to be changed. So as much as I despise the being that is Brian Johnson and the lack of just heart, the lack of direction, the lack of rhythm, the lack of any kind of mild creativity, I also don't want to pin it exclusively on him. Because it's like, look, if you've got a kid that relentlessly acts up in school and the teacher can't discipline it and the teacher can't get a rein on him, whose fault is it? Is it a lack of dynamic between the teacher and the student? Is it just the student? You don't blame the kid. The kid's just being a kid. Maybe he's got ADHD. Maybe he's got problems at home. You blame the teacher, really, for not being able to just make this one thing work, to accommodate, to be flexible, to move him to a different group, to move him out of the classroom where he isn't going to be of a burden or a disinterest to anyone else, right? You don't leave him in there setting fire to things. And that's sort of what this Eagles team did. So I hate Brian Johnson's play calling. I hate the playbook. Nothing sums it up like we said on Monday night, that in week 3, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers blitzed Jalen Hurts on 75% of plays. 75%, all right? In the last 6 weeks, Jalen Hurts' passer rating against the blitz was around 66. Absolutely terrible. So I wonder what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers would do, looking off basic metrics and basic tendencies and basic stats, which any one of you, whether you are 3 years old or 30, can find on Google within 10 seconds. Surely the Bucs will be blitzing Jalen Hurts. And that is exactly what they did. And the Eagles didn't see it coming. Like the Titanic and the iceberg, they just sat back saying, nah, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. And down went the ship. And the captain was a fucking idiot then, and he's a fucking idiot on this team. Right? And I don't think that's Brian Johnson's fault. Brian Johnson, he's trying. It's too little too late. All right? Sirianni should take accountability for that, in my opinion, or the front office, whoever makes those decisions. We've still got some more candidates to get through, so we'll get to those in just a little bit. I will say, though, as a heads up to anyone that did sign up to that ESPN bet promo on Monday, well done, because a little birdie's told me it's being pulled. ESPN won't be running sign-up offers to that level anymore. And if they do, it's going to, I don't know, it'll just be like $100. So if you did sign up, you got yourself some free money, hopefully. But yeah, that offer's now gone, I think. So sorry about that. But I hope you cashed in while you could. If you could like the stream, guys, again, that will be absolutely outstanding. I know we've got a bit of a bigger crowd here this evening and across the multiple platforms that we've got. If you do like the show, again, it's on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, it would be great to have some of you come back and join this discussion. Feel free to join in as well. Drop your comments, agree, disagree, somewhere in the middle. Let me know. We've got a lot to get through today. Boss man, you can only be upset at yourself for believing this fable that is the 2023 Eagles. See, the thing is, I only believed it for 2 days. Or 4. I believed it on Friday. I believed it on Monday. Until I was doubting from like week 3. And we've been in these streams long enough. Like, I was very, very critical of every aspect of this team for about 15, 14 weeks, I reckon. So, like, I don't know. I wasn't as wide a believer as some of us. How could every other team who had bad offensive issues make a change, but it has allowed this bullshit all year? And that's the thing, right? Look at Buffalo. Fired Ken Dorsey, and they went on an absolute tear. Absolute tear, Buffalo. Performing arguably the best they ever have offensively right now, these last 6-7 weeks. They've been great. Look at Tampa Bay even last year. They fired their offensive coordinator, took some teething problems. They're in the divisional round because it wasn't working out as one further than the Eagles. The Eagles just cannot accept that something's not working until it blows up in the face and they go, well, that didn't work. Why didn't we fix that? But until that point, they're oblivious. They're absolutely oblivious. It blows my mind. Teresa Constantini's in. Nice to see you in the stream again, Teresa. Liam's been pressing X to doubt the millisecond we didn't score the opening drive and Mac Jones looked like pretty much. Not gonna lie, like it was very obvious. Like something was off with that team, and it was like, yeah, we won, but barely. We got through, and then week 2 we won, but they're gonna have to fix it. And look, in the weirdest comparison, it is exactly the same way as when Carson Wentz was quarterback, and in 2016 and 2017. He would be just launching the most suicidal balls the world's ever seen, just saying, fuck it and chuck it, just throwing it and not really caring what happens when the ball's in the air. And the receivers would make plays, and he got away with it. And you fast forward a year later, and the receivers aren't getting their balls anymore. And now he's being sacked, and now the ball's in the dirt, and now he's struggling. And the game of blackjack is no longer a 50-50 game. And that's exactly what happened with this Eagles team, is that it caught up with them. You can only get away with scraping by for so long. The NFL is too good. It's the best football league in the world. There is nothing like the NFL. The amount of technology, the amount of analysis, the amount of data. Like, for anyone that is like interested in data, and you can like literally scrape it off of NFL.com and Next Gen Stats, and there's all kinds of stuff you can do, even at a basic level. If you know about coding, which I certainly don't, there's all sorts you can do. And we're fans. Imagine what coaches have got access to. Any game they want on film within 10 seconds. Scouts. analysts, assistants, and no one can make a change. It's absolutely shocking. Because the guy they replaced Dorsey with was actually smart enough not to change the motherfucking vocabulary and confusing the players, like an arsehole. He's got a point there, Doug. He has 100% got a point. And that brings us to our final candidate, or fourth and penultimate candidate of who's to blame for this downfall, and that is Nick Sirianni. Look, I said this earlier on. I don't think Sirianni is entirely responsible. I don't think he's entirely not responsible. A lot of it naturally falls on his shoulders as head coach, but without knowing, who makes the moves and who doesn't, it's hard to say. He could have been pounding the table to fire Brian Johnson and Lurie wouldn't do it. We don't know. Also, in caveat to that, as someone mentioned earlier, I have to find the exact comment, but someone said about, they think, it's Greg, there we go. But I think Jalen vouched for BJ and helped him get the job. And it could have been that, But I think at some point, for Sirianni to see this not working and make no changes, it falls on him. The execution of the team, the play calling, not on him. Not on him. Putting his team in a position to win, he was all right. He got there. But in terms of recognizing when the sky is falling down and preventing an absolute massacre, couldn't do it. The guy was literally piloting or riding. I don't know. What do you do? What do you do with a boat? Drive it? Sail it. That's it. You sail a boat. The man was sailing the Titanic into an iceberg. And just like the captain, too confident, too cocky, we'll get it right. We'll be fine. We'll keep doing what we do. And he hit the iceberg straight on. And he's only got himself to blame. And if your coordinators are not performing and you don't make a change, it's on you to blame. Look, put it this way. I run a business, okay? I run PSN. We've got 30 writers. If, let's say, and obviously this hasn't happened hypothetically, two of our Eagles lead writers aren't writing, one of them's disappeared, and it's just me. Whose fault is it? Whose responsibility is it to change that so that you can start getting content again? It's mine. It's obviously mine. I can't go to Brian and blame him. Yeah, Brian, that's damn you for having a life and damn you for doing that. How dare you not commit to PSN? Grr. It's my responsibility to find out why that's happening and find a solution. 100%. 100%. And the fact that Sirianni has been in that spot and nothing has changed, it's not on. I think Sirianni is definitely responsible to somewhat. It's just bizarre. I don't understand. And that's where I think there's a miscommunication somewhere along the line. And I can't tell if it genuinely is between Sirianni and Howie, if it's between Howie and Sirianni, or it's between Howie and Lurie, or Lurie and Sirianni. But there's one of the, that It's Always Sunny scene where Charlie's just doing that. It feels very much like that. Pepe Silva. No one's got a clue. Davidson, sorry I missed your comment earlier, by the way, says Sirianni did step up and take the blame. True, but you've still got to change something. How many more times can you be responsible? Again, put it this way. If you have a kid, right, and the kid picks up dog poo and launches it at someone, and the first time the parent can be like, sorry, I'm really sorry, it's my bad, I let him out my sight, whatever. Then the kid does it again. At what point, you do something about it? It's too much. Does it again. Stop throwing shit at me. Stop it. Get your kid to stop launching shit at me. Take him out the room. Take him for a walk. Buy him an Xbox. Do something. Just get him away from the dog poos and stop launching it at me. All right? At some point, it has to fall on him. It doesn't matter how accountable you are or taking the blame. Look, I hate to bring it back to a relationship discussion because, it's a bread and butter of this stream. How many times have you been in a relationship where someone apologizes and then does the same thing a month later, the same thing a week later? And it's not accountable. They're not learning. There's no growth. It's not moving on. You're not benefiting from it. It's just saying, sorry, that was me. I really messed up. Could we be normal now? And then you be normal, and then the same thing happens a week later. And you're raising your eyebrows okay, well, are you sorry? Did you mean it? Are we doing this again? And then it goes again and again. And that's the same thing. There's a difference between taking the blame. I'm sorry we argued. and then arguing another 7 times in a row for the same reasons, right? I'm sorry that we had to break up and then continuing to do the same thing for like a month after. So there has to be an element of accountability, all right? And the last one, that I was going to bring up was a joke, actually. I went to this as a little tidbit, and he's not here. So the last man that is accountable for the downfall of the Philadelphia Eagles is K1. He's a little troublemaker, and he's in this stream every night. Apart from, it's funny, isn't it? Look, now we're talking accountability, and we're blaming him for the downfall of the offense. He's not here. He's not here. But I blame K1 for being a sassy little gremlin that comes in and causes mischief like Gizmo from the film Gremlins. Little wild card. He would have loved that. He would have had his own graphic, would have made his day. He's not even here for it. Absolutely livid. LJ, do you know the fable of the frog and the scorpion? I don't, actually. I don't. If someone could let me know, if you could let me know what that is, though, I'm intrigued now. Very intrigued. And people watched this and wanted to give him more time, but why? He watched his team be piss poor with a front row view and did nothing. Exactly, J Fizz. And that's where I'm at. But I don't think Sirianni gets the can. I think they will start with the coordinators. They'll give Sirianni one more year. I know K1 got a graphic. K1 got a graphic. He wasn't even in, and he won't believe it either. I'll save it for next time. We can run it back. But, you know, I had to give him a little shout, bless him, didn't we? But we have got around like 10, 15 minutes left. Is there anything you guys want to go over as such, or just kind of, what would you do in this situation? You know, if you are Jeffrey Lurie, what can you do to stop it? Eric says, from the moment we clinched, Nick had a month to make the necessary changes and adjustments to turn this thing around and win the locker room back and get us on track. Exactly. That's the thing. Like, I'm not blaming Sirianni for the failure of the offense or for the failure of the defense. What I'm blaming him for is that happened repeatedly and nothing changed. Like, nothing changed. You know? It sucks. Nothing changed. You can't see that every week and not be responsible. Again, if PSN's views are down month after month after month for 6 months and it's a decline, who takes the fall? Is it the writers? No. It's obviously me, because it's my business and it's my ship and I'm controlling the ship. And if they're not up to, you know, the content's not contenting, it's my fault. Obviously, it starts with me, because you have to make sure we're making changes. And if we're doing the same thing that isn't working, it starts up top. Any other line of work, that would be the case. Any other line of work. Apart from the one where I worked at the DIY store and someone shagged the manager and the manager was engaged to someone else in another store and also dating. That was a whole triangle. We can get to that. That was fun. That was a great time of my life. All came out of the Christmas party, which was absolutely tremendous. But that's a story for another day, for sure. But yeah, it's just strange. Thought I was going to be blamed. Not at all, Greg. We love you to bits. Kind of mad how there was a game played in the American equivalent of the North Pole and the Eagles still had the worst offense this weekend. Yeah. Thanks, Timur. Thank you. That's very helpful as always. Thank you very much for that great comment that makes me feel wonderful. Halfway across the river, the scorpion stings the frog. The frog asks why now they're both dead. The scorpion says, I'm a scorpion and I must do what's my nature. All right, I'm struggling. I'm not really good with... Hang on. Halfway across the river, the scorpion stings the frog. The frog says, why are they now both dead? The scorpion says, I have to do it because I'm a scorpion. Pretty much. Yeah, I kind of get it. Yeah, it's just Sirianni being Sirianni, isn't it? 100%. Who do you pick for OC? I've got Eric B. I think I should have done last off season. Also, Ron Rivera at DC seems okay in theory, but he's been a bum for a few years. Yeah, it's tricky. I don't know. I think that's only the half the story. Oh, right. Right. We've got half. Okay. Scorpion asked the frog to help it across the river. Frog said, Scorpion wants the frog to help it across the river. Frog says, yeah, go on then. Just don't sting me, mate. Scorpion says, all right. Right. That makes sense. Got you now. Yeah, I think I had half the story and I was having to assume the rest of it. Scorpion's been a little sneaky snake there. Not a sneaky scorpion, is what I say. Oh, jeez. But yeah, Team's a mess. Everything's gone wrong. Not really sure where we go from here. It's going to be a fun off season though. I'm excited for the content, for the mock draft, for the chaos. We can talk a little bit about Fletcher Cox, I suppose. I mean, obviously he seems to be in and out at the minute. He went off on a reporter earlier today. Does he come back or not? I'm not sure. I don't know. Like, part of me thinks he will because he was still playing at a solid level. Like, he was still a good player. And he's not over the hill just yet, and he can probably do it on a rotational level. It's not like Jason Kelce, where Kelce would come back as a backup center when he's playing like one of the best centers in the NFL. Kelce got all-pro honors. Kelce got a Pro Bowl. He's good enough to be an elite starter. And it's not like there are 3 or 4 centers where you can maybe give him a rotational role. He'd just be a straight backup or a starter. And I don't think his body is... I don't know his body, but from what he said, it sounds like his body just doesn't have it in him for another year. Or it didn't even sound like that this year. So I'm amazed he got through this year without injury. Like, that's astounding. The fact that Jason Kelce got to this point. So Fletch is in a unique spot where the position is a little bit more flexible. He probably could get away with a bit more and just play like a DT4 kind of role and be fine. So yeah, he might come back. I think he might, to be honest. Although Jordan Davis crying, being a bit emotional, didn't really sound like Fletcher will be back. So there is that, I suppose. But in terms of like what coordinators I want, I mean, Ben Johnson's a shout from Tom P or Slovic. I don't know enough about opposing coordinators and college coaches and NFL coaches, really. Like, this is where my research starts. I mentioned the other day, like, I won't front. I'll never lie and just pretend I know shit when I don't. I don't know enough. Like, for me, if I'm targeting a coach, and I said this before, you should be looking for someone that has done very well with very little. Not someone that has just ridden a coattail, had an elite offense, and done all right. It should be someone that is pretty bad or has a bad team and has done pretty well. Mike Vrabel, I think, overachieved tremendously in Tennessee. I think he'd be a shout for head coach. Absolutely. Coordinators, I'd need to do some digging. I would need to do some looking and see who's done what, who's available, who will be willing to move, college coaches and that sort of thing. But yeah, Marshall Lynch says, we don't look at firing a man that has won 10 plus games 2 years in a row. He took this organization to 3 playoff appearances. Fletch on Nick's job. Yeah, and I think that's sort of the issue. Like, it's great that Fletch is standing up for him. There should have been more of that noise earlier in the year. Or he was very prodded about it. Like, it was a stupid question. I don't know who asked, but someone asked him what his opinions were on Nick Sirianni's potential firing, and he nibbled. But realistically, that level of confidence, that passion, where was that on Monday from the rest of them? It's all very well and good. No one fires Sirianni. He's a great coach. He's great. Play like it then. If he's that good, the whole team should play like it. If he's that good, the whole team shouldn't be rolling over, beaten, bruised, bloodied on Monday night to the Bucs, being humiliated. And they shouldn't have done it to the Giants or the Cardinals or the Seahawks or the Niners, or any team that they've lost to this year. They shouldn't have. It's too little too late. You can't go screaming, crying that there's a breakup happening when you've ignored every sign to try and fix it. As a player, you haven't done enough. Fletch was very vocal about Jonathan Gannon, wasn't he? Very vocal about being played out of position. Vocal about being irritated by it. Not so much this year. Bit too little too late for me on that front. Is what it is. I'm intrigued to see what happens. But realistically, if that passion had been there even 5-6 weeks ago, the Eagles wouldn't be here. If the players could have a player-only meeting and say, look, Sirianni is a great coach. Let's do better for him because we're failing him right now. We have to be accountable for the fact we're letting him down ourselves and the fans. And that never happened. So it's too little too late, really. And I don't think he would have said it had he not been prodded. He was prodded with a question he didn't want to answer. He got defensive and that's sort of it. I don't think it's a genuine, oh my God, yeah, Sirianni's great. We'll go to bat for him. No, they wouldn't. They would have done it earlier in the year. I don't think anyone did. It was too busy talking about A.J. Brown's personality. It was too busy talking about the players not playing to the standard and Jalen Hurts' little sassy quotes, Excuse me, I need a drink. I'm getting dry throated. We can't target OCs and DCs unless Siri gets fired, then it's fair game. Yeah, exactly. There is a point as well. I think BG took 5 mil this year coming off a career year. I think it was 8. I think it was 8. It was like 7.9 million for 3 sacks. It's not great this year. 3 sacks for it's literally 1.5 million a sack he got paid. If he comes back, he's going to have to take less. If he's happy to, then fine. But I don't think he wants to play anywhere that isn't Philadelphia. So I think that does work in his corner. Like, that does work for him. But realistically, it's a tough decision. The Eagles have some tough decisions to make. 17 players are set to hit that free agency window. How many of them will be kept around? Who knows? It's going to be a long and grueling off season for sure. We should have had Brian Flores in DC this year, but Gannon pulled this BS. Yeah, I mean, the Gannon thing is absurd anyway. Like, to this day, I still can't really get over it. I don't get... Look, I'll say this. Why an NFL team should be submitting interview requests for a team still in the playoffs is absolutely ridiculous. Like, nothing should be happening until the Super Bowl. The off-season ends, or starts... The off-season starts when the Super Bowl finishes. As soon as the final whistle goes, request all you want. But you can't approach a manager, a coach, a coordinator in the playoffs and go, do you want to come interview for a promotion? They're obviously going to be distracted. They're obviously not going to care as much. It sucks. That's horrible. I'd hate to be in that situation, going to work every day, knowing that this could be the last time you see those folks again. You might have an exit interview, sure, but you might not see those players. Shocking. The NFL needs to get rid of that. They've got to sort that rule. Not even because of the Gannon thing, but just in general, the amount of players that have been requested interviews around this time, it can mess up a whole vibe of a team. It's really tough. Like, the off-season is for that. That's literally what the off-season is for. Off-season, not mid-season. We'll poach a coordinator. Grow up, NFL. Most advanced league in the world. Should be better than that. I really think we wanted Fangio this offseason. Yeah. Oh, 100%. And what they fell on was a Fangio disciple. He was also named Sean Disciple, you know? So there is that. But that brings us to the end of the show, guys. I know we've got a minute or so left. So just a quick reminder, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please make sure you do. You get notified when we go live, which is Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern. If you could leave a like on the video again, it just does help a lot. I know everyone says it. There's a reason they do. Like, it really does help. So if you have enjoyed the content, just hitting that thumb would be great. I'll quickly read Eric's comment before we go. As you all know, I'm bad at goodbyes. Eric's on Fletcher's... If you felt like you would have won that 35-9, Nick, you're fired. Clean out your locker, bro. I'm with Eric. I'm 100% with Eric on that one. Yeah, it's too little too late. No point saying it now. But thank you for hanging out. I will say this. Look, the season's officially over now, all right? Don't go yet. Don't go. Oh, hold up. The season's officially over now, all right? Just thank you, genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, for welcoming me back to YouTube, okay? I started this again just as part of, on the side. Like, every time I've tried to come back to YouTube, I've really struggled to keep it up because I never feel I can commit to, like, the standard video I want to make is hard to do when I'm also working, like, obviously a 9-hour day for PSN and doing all the other stuff. So, like, it's hard to be a video editor and a guy that makes videos and then run the site and everything out, and a streamer at one point, and it burnt me out. And I wanted to get back into it in like a micro dosage where I could just have fun with it. And you guys are welcoming me back. And you come in every single stream, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6 p.m. You're all here. You all accept me. And you chat, and it's like we never left. And I'm just so thankful for you all just taking an hour out of your day, 3 days a week to talk birds. It's been amazing to watch some friendships blossom, to watch a real community begin to thrive in these comment sections. And I'm just beyond grateful for being able to do this and still have an audience that cares about what I have to say. So just thank you so much for that. You've made this year a whole lot more enjoyable than it would have been. Thank you for all the support you continue to give PSN, but outside of the YouTube channel, like the website and the articles and stuff as well, but also for welcoming change, like to have someone like Phil come in and bring Trending in the AM to PSN and bring a whole new level of content. It's made us all better. It's given us some brilliant, regularity over the year. And I'm just so grateful to be doing this. I think we're at the best we've ever been. I think our content's the best it's been. And we're having fun. So to just thank you for being part of it we wouldn't be here without you and your support and all your passion and endless hours you devote to these streams. So just, yeah, means a lot. Thank you so much. Yeah. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy the off season. I'm glad I'm your favorite. I'll give you all a big cuddle soon. Take care. Enjoy your evening. I would say go Birds, but probably shouldn't to avoid, bringing back the memories of Monday. But I love you all to bits. Have a good evening. I'll see you soon.